The United States and Venezuela are potentially days away from a war. That's what we've been hearing over the past 24 hours. But it has more to do with here in the United States than just over in Venezuela or in international waters. But look at this right here. It says U.S. War Department weighs possible strikes in Venezuela after attacks on suspected drug boats. That's what we learned several days ago. But now it's actually getting more intense. I want to show you something else. It says President Trump declares U.S. in armed conflict with drug cartels in the Caribbean. That was just announced today. President Trump is serious about what has been happening. He wants to eliminate the drug threat coming in from Venezuela into the United States. But it's actually bigger than just the drugs, because it actually has to do with a Venezuelan gang, a prison gang called Tren de Aragua. They've been in the United States for several years, and they've made themselves at home in cities like Chicago. That's one of the cities that President Trump has said is a dangerous city, and we need to get a hold of it. Listen to this right here, though, because again, this is just getting started.
Breaking moments ago, the Trump administration says it is now engaged in, quote, armed conflict with drug cartels. That's according to a memo to Congress that was obtained by Fox News. Our Peter Ducey has got more on the breaking news live from the White House. Peter, I assume this is in response to the criticisms that have been leveled at the president for taking out those drug boats.
Yes, and John, those criticisms come from Democratic lawmakers who say they are concerned that these cartel members, cartel drug boat captains, are not getting due process before a bomb drops on their head. President Trump and his team do not seem moved one bit by that, and so they drafted this memo making this official to Congress. Part of it says, based upon the cumulative effects of these hostile acts against the citizens and interests of the United States and friendly foreign nations, the president is determined that the United States is in a non-international armed conflict with these designated terrorist organizations. The president directed the Department of War to conduct operations against them pursuant to the law of armed conflict. And the president just talked about this week.
If you try to poison our people, we will blow you out of existence.
Keep in mind, he's not just talking about people coming from Venezuela and showing up on boats. No, he's talking about people that are already here. This is one of the things that we've been seeing over the past several days. And I'll show you this. Look at this right here. It says hundreds of federal agents in Chicago carry out operation targeting suspected Tren de Aragua gang members. This is still happening to this day. So don't get it twisted and think we are only targeting Venezuela and that country. We're targeting people right here in the United States as well, because according to President Trump, this is the only way we can be safe. Get rid of all the people that are committing crimes here in the United States. That also includes bringing drugs into the U.S., selling them to our citizens and to children, and hurting communities. Let's keep listening, though.
Because that's the only language they really understand. That's why you don't see any more boats on the ocean. You don't see any boats. Around Venezuela, there's nothing.
And it's not just Venezuela. The president's team is putting out the word that cartels throughout the Caribbean are now on notice.
Okay, there you go. And then you can see it right here, though, as well. It says Venezuela raids rebel border camps stashed with drugs and guns. According to reports just this morning, we are now hearing that Venezuela is going after certain camps to eliminate the drugs and guns, because Venezuela understands that it could just be in the matter of days where the United States decides we can't wait any longer. We need to hit these camps. We need to hit these stash houses. We need to ensure that these drugs and these weapons are not getting into someone else's hands. And so we shut it down. And that's where the reports of the United States potentially bombing Venezuela in the next couple of weeks, that's where these came from. Because the United States says, yes, that we are serious about this and we will end the threat if we need to. Look at this, though. Okay? It says Venezuela hits rebel camps, accuses U.S. of threatening flybys. I want to read a little of this to you. It says, Venezuela raided guerrilla camps near the Colombian border amid growing pressure from the United States, which sent combat jets on threatening maneuvers close to the nation's coast. It says Defense Minister Vladimir Pedrino showed footage of Venezuelan troops blowing up jungle camps he said were used by Colombia's FARC and ELN rebels to evade detection and stash drugs and guns. He also confirmed their presence in Bolivar State in the bauxite-rich something area, a rare admission by a government official that such groups operate inside Venezuela. Okay. It says, at the same time, Pedrino said Thursday that Venezuela's air defense system detected at least 5 U.S. aircraft flying at 400 knots at 35,000 feet. In a joint statement with the Foreign Affairs Ministry, the Defense Ministry later said the incursion of the foreign planes happened Thursday, 75 kilometers from the Venezuelan coast. A plane from Colombia's Avianca airline also witnessed the sorties, according to the authorities. Okay, so is the United States doing flybys? Potentially. Are we doing some surveillance to see where we need to hit? According to reports out over the past couple of days, that was one of the things that they were looking into. And we learned that the Pentagon was forming this plan, but they were still missing key pieces of information. The locations to hit could be that key piece of information that they were still missing. So the fact that they potentially have that now, that's interesting. Look at this though. It says Venezuela and U.S. edge toward war footing, but domestic concerns and international risks may hold Washington back. I want to read a little bit of this to you. It says, for many in Venezuela, the question is no longer whether tensions with Washington will reach a boiling point. They already have. Rather, the big unknown now is whether the U.S. will follow up on threats and the sinking of drug boats with something more drastic, direct military engagement, or even regime change. Certainly, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is preparing for all eventualities. On September 29, 2025, the leftist leader signed a decree granting him additional powers. The following day, Maduro threatened a state of emergency. Already, Caracas had carried out military drills amid talks of being a republic in arms. So yes, there are some issues that are arising as a result of this additional conflict between Venezuela and the United States. But the fact of the matter is this: the United States has to be very careful. Okay? And this is why this attack on Venezuela might actually be delayed. Not because the United States wants to, but because they may have to. And it's all because of the prison gang Tren de Aragua. Look at this. It says Tren de Aragua terrorist among 93 arrested by Memphis Safe Task Force. This is according to the Attorney General Pam Bondi. She said that yes, a terrorist from Tren de Aragua was just arrested. Obviously that's concerning, but here's the bigger concern, and this is why, according to reports, the United States may delay an attack on Venezuela because they want to ensure that the most dangerous gang members from Tren de Aragua, some of the leaders that are here in the United States, that they are picked up and arrested before anything. Because what we don't want and can't afford is to have another casualty here inside the United States. And we've seen that over the past several weeks, where there are shootings and stabbings, and it just continues to go on and on. President Trump doesn't want that. So as a result, he wants to get rid of a lot of these gang members, these so-called terrorists, and then we can attack Venezuela and ensure that their drugs are not coming into the United States. But look what also just happened today. It says right here, senior member of Venezuela's Tren de Aragua gang was arrested. He wasn't arrested here in the United States, though. It says right here, the alleged leader of Venezuela's criminal gang Tren de Aragua, Tren de Aragua's armed wing, has been captured in a joint operation involving Colombia, the U.S., and the UK. It says right here, Colombia's national police said Jose Antonio Marquez Morales, known as Caracas, was arrested in the city of Valledupar and alleged that he played a central role in managing the logistics and finances for the group for extortion, drug trafficking, and smuggling. Okay. Says Tren de Aragua has been targeted by U.S. President Donald Trump, who declared it a terrorist organization and deported more than 250 people he claimed were members of the gang to a jail in El Salvador. All right. So what we know right now is the threat is real. The attacks from the United States to Venezuela are actually only going to intensify and most likely increase. As they do, there's going to be additional threats here inside the United States, especially in sanctuary cities where Tren de Aragua gang members are known to live. Chicago is pretty much the hotspot at this time. So we'll see what happens over the next several days, but over the next couple of weeks, we should have answers because according to reports, the Pentagon was considering an attack and bombing parts of Venezuela over the next 3 weeks, and that was as of last week. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but that is what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.